Hey YouTube, I hope you're on fire. Do you want to get 100k followers on Instagram in less than 48 hours with 10% engagement rate without any effort? This video is definitely not for you. Nope, today we cut the crap and I'm going to tell you what it costs in time and effort to grow on Instagram. The purpose is not to discourage you. I think we can still grow on the platform in 2020, but not without real investment. We're going to do this in two parts. Today I'm going to talk to you about how the Instagram algorithm works. I have compiled all the steps that you should validate to be in his good graces. In a second video, we will really talk about the practice. I will show you how I organize my account around the strategy that allowed me to make it grow, and this thanks to a fantastic production tool. I think I can say that it's something you won't really find anywhere else. And frankly, this tool has changed my life. No, not just for Instagram, my whole life. For real. Come on, let's go. Instagram, like all social media, operates around what has the greatest market value in the world today: attention. To sell advertising, they need to keep users on the platform the longest. So the more attention your account gets, the more Instagram will promote it. It's as simple as that. I will summarize the different ways to grow your account around three axes: content, engagement, and external traffic. First, the content. Instagram has become insanely competitive, and what you need to understand is that it is not a real-world imagery social media. That's what it is often criticized for, but it's not its vocation. It should be seen as a portfolio from people who create deliberately polished and aestheticized images, and who, by extension, if they show parts of their lives, will show them sublimated.
I see your bullshit.
Whereas in reality, their life is boring like everyone else. But it means that the aesthetic value of what you post is essential to have a chance to stand out. This value comes through the graphic quality, but also the coherence of the content that you will offer to potential followers who will land on your account and who will decide in a few seconds to follow you or not. To do this, you have to carefully choose your niche, the more specific the better, and stick to it. What people will find on your profile must be consistent over time. It is for this niche, the value of this niche, that people come, not for you personally. If you're doing food photography, in the middle of your feed shouldn't appear pictures of you at your granny's house or with your friend at the beach. Separate your personal account from your portfolio account, the one you want to grow. The feed, let's talk about it. As I said, it's the first thing people see, and it's what makes them decide to follow you or not. It has to be very high candy in terms of graphic quality, and not for a particular image, but of your work as a whole. The overall harmony of the colors, the way the images are organized and coherent on your feed, these are essential things to think about in advance. That's why it's important to program your publications. We'll see that in the next video. But once again, remember that when I arrive on your profile, I must be able to know in a few seconds what I'm going to find on your account and if I like it. The quality and the niche on which you position yourself are therefore of the utmost importance. Another point, and for me the most important of all Instagram acts, is the frequency of publication. Instagram is a saturated social media, and if you want your voice to be heard, you can't afford to add a single drop in the ocean every once in a while. At the very least, you have to post at least once a day. I know, it's a vicious circle. Instagram is saturated and you're being asked to saturate it even more. But it's just that the lifespan of any content is very short, so you have to feed the beast continuously. In addition to the amount of content you have to publish, there is also its regularity. Switch your account to Pro Modes to have access to analytics, see when your audience is the most present on the platform, and decide to publish always at the same time. For example, every day at 6 p.m, I don't know, but it should be an appointment, a rendezvous for the people who follow you and who need to know when they can find new content from you. The second pillar of growth on Instagram, the one everyone talks about, is engagement. When you start out, you're a bit obsessed with the number of followers, which Instagram doesn't really value. What does have value, however, is how much those same followers are invested in your profile and your content. What has value is metrics like likes, number of comments, time spent on your profile, and pictures in comparison to your number of followers. Let's say you post an image, you get 100 likes and 10 people comment. If you have 1,000 subscribers, your engagement rate will be high, and therefore this picture will be very appealing to the Instagram algorithm, which will be tempted to promote it. But suppose you have 100,000 subscribers and 100 likes, 10 comments. No bueno. On one hand, I think that your followers, you bought them and they are composed of bots, but it clearly says that your your work doesn't interest anyone. So Instagram won't show your images to a lot of people. So how do we get that engagement? As far as likes are concerned, it will be mainly thanks to the quality of the work you will produce. But how do we make people interact with your images and stay on your profile as long as possible? First of all, you're going to have to use caption, the short description under your image, in an intelligent way. The first thing to do is to either determine, if you haven't already done so, or to respect the voice and the tone that represents you as a brand or as an individual personality and with which your community identifies. Are you speaking to your audience in a fun, serious or formal tone? What are the words you will use to connect with people you don't know? Earlier I talked about niche, now about voice. You have to see yourself as your own brand. Creating a community is not about bringing everyone together, it's about bringing people together who have a common interest, a common passion that you convey. To want to please everyone is to please no one. If you're passionate about cars and DIY, for example, I'm not going to try to get you to subscribe to my account, which shows portraits and landscapes. You randomly can like a picture, but I wouldn't want you to subscribe just to have one more follower. You have to look for following from people who will really get involved in your profile over time because they will find themselves in what you published. For that, you also need to determine who these people are, who make up your audience, who they are in terms of demographics, age, gender, interests. Knowing who you're talking to will help you know what you can talk to them about in your captions and what will interest them. And last but not least, it's going to be the call to action. It sounds very marketing like that, but it's just understanding that people won't interact with you if you don't give them the opportunity to do so. This is a picture of a cup of coffee. What do you want to say to that? Yeah, it's pretty, but instead I can say I took this picture in a whole coffee shop in Melbourne and ask if you know they have a great coffee culture in Australia. Or do you also like to do food photography? Or what's your favorite image if it's a carousel? The purpose is to ask questions that will start a discussion. And the point is this, you want people to engage with your account, but you also want to engage with them. To do that, you have to answer to the comments you received, private messages, etc. But more than that, you have to make the effort to comment on the artists you admire, but also go and see the profiles of people who leave you comments and give them feedback too. It's a social media. The goal is to connect with other creators, and the more you do that, the more you create a community and the more Instagram will appreciate you. What Instagram will also appreciate is the use of its own tools. The more you use its tools, the more points you'll score with its algorithm. That means using Story, IGTV, etc. Every time they release a new feature, try to be among the first to adopt it. Like for example with the new Reel feature, which is there to compete with TikTok, in the same way they stole the concept of stories from Snapchat. I think it's really the right time to get started with that. Another thing I like to talk about is optimizing your profile. Be careful who you follow and how many people you follow. If you have, I don't know, 10,000 followers, but you're following 15,000 people, your engagement rate will be low. You're sending a signal to Instagram that you're not using the platform properly. Being everybody's friends, you're nobody's friends. Be selective, follow a small number of people who produce quality content, and most importantly, in your niche. If you want to follow your friends or brands you like, do it with your personal Instagram account. In the end, engagement is a kind of virtuous circle where the more you engage yourself with others, the more you use the platform correctly and the more you are rewarded. Finally, the third lever you can use to grow your Instagram account is external traffic. It is all the audience you can bring in other than through all the Instagram's own discoverability tools. I mean the other social media, Facebook, Twitter, your website or other website like blog, that will link to your profile. We will also place in this category what we call shoutouts. That is to say other accounts that will promote you by talking about your profile on posts, stories, or by publishing your images on their feed. They are curated pages, meaning they don't produce content but use the content of others to promote them. And there are such pages for almost every niche. Some pages are very influential and being published on one of them is the assurance of gaining several thousand followers. How do you get on one of these pages? To get this opportunity for free, we'll see that in the next video. But most pages have paid offers to buy a place on their feed for 2 hours, 24 hours, or even permanently. For me, shoutouts are one of the best ways to gain visibility on Instagram, but you need to be careful. You have to do a lot of research to find the right pages in your niche and that are not scams. And there's a lot of them, so check the engagement rates to make sure you get a return of your investment don't waste your money. And since we're talking about fee-based solution, one of the most obvious is to use Instagram's own promotion tools. Instagram is Facebook, so you have to go through their advertising system to do your campaign on Instagram. But it seems relatively effective, especially since you can target exactly who your images are going to be shown to. Yeah, Facebook knows all about us, so when it comes to demographic targeting, they're unfortunately the best. Plus, you're using one of its tools, so you'll probably please the algorithm. I don't have more to say about that because I never done a campaign like this, but it seems to be one of the best solutions if you have a good budget dedicated to advertising for your business. Because the other paid solutions you will find on the web, okay, let's just talk a little bit about the pitfalls to avoid. Again, I'm not a guru who can guarantee you thousands of followers in 24 hours. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid they're lying to you. I don't think that's possible or under very, very specific conditions. There are no hacks that will allow you to be smarter than the algorithm created by the smartest and most vicious people on the planet. I'm not the one who discovered everything I've presented to you so far. I just synthesized everything we know Instagram validates and encourages. You want to know what it doesn't like? I strongly advise you to avoid buying bots.
Yeah, all right, shut up. I'll take this one.
i.e. systems that will manage your account and simulate engagement by liking, commenting, or randomly subscribing to other accounts. It's the follow for follow technique. Oh, I subscribe to your account, so subscribe to mine. First of all, no. And then people will unfollow you 24 hours after or as soon as you subscribe to their account. If you really think that's a good method and not a son of a bitch mentality, oh, I'm judging you. I'm judging you right now. But hey, do whatever you want. But Instagram will judge you too. I advise you not to buy followers because here too there are false accounts, robots, even if the website where you will find them tell you the opposite and promise you real followers. No, they're bots. Don't buy likes either or like for like, it's the same principle. The same goes for engagement groups, which are quite popular these days. It's a group of users who agree to like and comment on the post of all the people in the group as soon as they post. It still works for the moment. Instagram still has a little bit of trouble spotting that, since these are real users, not robots. But it's not a long-term strategy. Instagram hates any behavior that tries to hijack the way it's supposed to work. If it doesn't condemn it today, it will do so retrospectively with an update of its algorithm, as it has done several times with bots, for example, by removing accounts that had used them. Okay, we've pretty much covered everything. Now we're going to move on to a little case study, my case. Because you could look at my account and say, hey, that's very nice, but you only have 4,000 subscribers on your Instagram account. Even if, once again, it's not about numbers, on the platform, it's really not that big of a deal. And so, giving lessons, my area of expertise is photography and video, but then really not social media, believe me. What I did today is just synthesize the sum of knowledge you can collect yourself on the internet. How did I acquire this knowledge? I started my career in photography, but today, and for several years now, my job is video production. Last year, I wanted to come back to the photography market a little bit in parallel, and I thought that Instagram could be the right tool for that. Hence the research job I did to understand how it works. The question I was wondering about was, can quality rhyme with quantity? And this obligation to be very productive. In the case of Instagram, if you think about it, yes, it can. For a photographer, a professional photographer I mean, having one new good picture a day is not an exuberant challenge. But my job, the one that assures my income, is videographer. My photo work is just a passion on the side. Instagram, yes, it's a social media that's in its maturity, so saturated. Yet I think it's still possible to grow, even today in 2020, but not as before as a dilettante. Today it requires real investment, I would say a minimum of 1 hour a day, both to create the content and to participate in the life of the platform that will eventually reward you by putting your content forward. And that's why I quickly realized that it wasn't necessarily the most interesting platform for me. In the end, I choose to deploy all my energy on YouTube, not on Instagram. That's the question you have to ask yourself. What do you expect from an Instagram account? You have many different ways of looking at it. First of all, you are just a passionate photographer. So use the platform to show your work to your friends and family, and to those who might be interested. Growing up on Instagram is very complicated. Besides satisfying your ego, what's the point point of having followers and likes. The time and involvement you'll need to invest in growing on the platform will be better invested in learning and in practice. Second approach, you want to use your content to create an audience and then monetize that audience. These are called influencers. The term is awful, very badly chosen, but the function itself is not at all disgusting. But for that, you have to create a big audience. And to grow quickly, for me today the best solution is paid marketing with advertising, but also to devote yourself full time to produce content in quantity, very qualitative, and to be extremely active on the platform by engaging continuously. The last way to see your positioning on Instagram is to see it as a portfolio, as a photographer to find clients. And the main mistake that is made is to confuse this strategy with the previous one and imagine that you need a big audience. Let's be clear, 100,000 subscribers is not 100,000 clients. We were talking about targeting earlier. 95% of Instagram users are individuals who enjoy looking at pretty pictures and who do not go beyond a like and a comment. The goal will be not to create content that is supposed to please them, but that will reach the small percentage of communication agencies, art directors, marketing services that will need your services. In short, according to your profile, do you need to grow very fast on the platform, or will slow growth over time can suit you? Let's finish by going back to my profile. It's interesting in one point. It's a summary of what not to do. Today I give you a lot of advice telling you, hey, you have to do this and this. I don't apply any of them. I publish once when I can, without any regularity. I never have time to write interesting captions. Just, hey, look, a new picture, which doesn't really push people to comment. There's a lot of comments that I miss and I don't answer because I open Instagram only once every 3 days. So I'm not consistent with it, and Instagram perfectly noticed that. In the last few months, I must have earned, 500, 600 followers? That's to be expected. However, what is interesting to analyze is how I went from 0 to more than 3,000 in only 3 or 4 months, the period where I started and where I was invested on the platform before preferring to go on YouTube. How did I do that? Yes, basically I did what I told to you about today, and actually not all of it like I should have. But mostly I use a strategy, very basic, but strangely not so developed by the Instagram gurus on the web. You probably noticed that I didn't mention some obvious Instagram tools in this video, right? But it's mostly the way I implemented it, which saved me time and productivity. I promise we'll talk about that in the next video, which is coming up very soon. If you learned anything today, you can hit the like button, and if you have any question, go to the comment section. I do my best to answer them. And if you like my videos in general, and only if you like them and you know you want to see more, and you want to be part of a community that is united around a common passion that is photography, and soon video, then you can subscribe and ring that pretty little bell. See you, mate. Keep on creating.